Hey, BookTube, welcome to Jack's Reading Corner. I'm Jack, and I just got back from the bookstore and have officially updating my Stephen King collection. I only bought one Stephen King, but it happened to be the book that they are reading this month in the Stephen King read-along group on Goodreads, hosted by Melissa, whose channel name I don't remember off the top of my head. But it was one of the ones that I didn't have, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna do it or not, if I was gonna get it. But I did get it from the library as well. But then I saw at the bookstore, I was like, it's only like $4. So, and it will give me, I'll be able to return the book from the copy I borrowed from the library, which is good because I have this weird thing where I want to at least have one book to return to the library on the day the books are due back. Because yes, as I've said before, I know that, I could keep borrowing the books, and I probably wouldn't have a problem with that, because I know in some communities, people, you're going to have a lot of customers that are going to want the same books. But, again, I live in a community where a lot of the people that they wouldn't necessarily like the books I like to borrow from the library. I mean, maybe there's potential with the kids, with the when I'm reading middle grade and checking in YA, but mostly I'm pretty sure I'd be fine. I wouldn't have that problem. I mean, there's always a chance, of course, but I still like to, be able to return one book, ideally. So I will be able to return 2 books because I bought one of the books that I borrowed. And plus, I already borrowed another Stephen King book. That's kind of probably take me a while to read. And that's Terry saying hi, because we already started a conversation. But, so, okay. Anyway, so, I already borrowed a book from him. It's one of his short stories collections. Everything is Eventual. No. Seriously? Why can't, I wish she would remember. I mean, I'll have to remind her again that if she has more than one thing to say, she could put it in one post, one message. I have to remind her that. But anyway, I got this one, which is his short story. Oh my god. Seriously, I love you, Terry, but couldn't you put that in one message? But this one has the 1408 short story, and I think I mentioned in another video that I wasn't sure who I was talking to. Maybe it was Melissa. It might be actually Melissa. That she said that the short story isn't as scary as the movie. As the I don't remember what year the movie came out, but the one it's with Samuel L. Jackson. He's the hotel manager, and what is his name? I can't remember the actor's name. His sister's name is Joan, and then he has another sister who does more small time stuff. John Cusack. He plays the main character in the story, and he's like a cynic who doesn't believe, he doesn't believe in ghosts. He's always set out to disprove them and, prove that they're all just hoaxes. So he stays in this hotel room that supposedly is haunted, and then basically the hauntings ensue and he gets scared shitless. I've never seen it, so I don't know how it works. But I've seen enough. I mean, I've seen the movie, but I've never seen it all the way to the end, so I don't know how things are going to turn out for the guy, but I've seen it, a lot of it. And I don't know if there's anything else in this collection. But these are and then the other one, the one that I bought, I decided to buy the copy of it at the bookstore, is Rose Manor. That's the one they're reading this month in the group. Oh, say hi to Pennywise. The original, the old version, the one that came out in 1990. Terry bought him for me for, I don't know if it was a Christmas gift or a birthday gift. But I want to get the new one, though. I want to get the 2018 version. I want to get him as well. But anyway, so this is the one I ended up getting for Lumber, and then I decided to buy. And it's the same exact copy. You know how they have multiple, because Since he's been around for a while, his books always have so many editions of them. It's the same edition, but I guess this is the American one. I wasn't sure if I would like it or not. That's why I didn't get around to buying it until now. Like, I would love to claim that Stephen King is an auto-author for me, and I bought a lot of his books. That's what this whole video is about, but I don't know if I would like everything, because, like, I'm not a thriller fan. Like, I don't know if I'll ever get the Mercedes series, Mr. Mercedes series. So, I guess I can't really claim he's an auto-buy if I don't buy everything or even read everything he writes. But he is one of my favorite authors. I just don't necessarily like everything, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, So, I don't know much about this one. I heard what it's about, of course. Like, Melissa described what it's about, but I couldn't really explain it to you guys, so not thoroughly anyway. So this is the one I bought. See, here it is. Let's go ahead and start with this. Rose Manor. So I bought it, and it's the same copy. It's the same edition. Just the library. This is the library one. So the only difference is, really the only difference is it has plastic on it. And it has a stamp. That's the property of Gibbons Memorial Library. So I can return that along with, once I finish the Museum of Extraordinary Things. I don't know off the top of my head, but I wanted, but that's taken me unfortunately it's taken me a long time to read that one, because it's one of those books that there may not be as many chapters, or like 10 chapters, but they're really long chapters. And that's one of the things I like about Stephen King is he writes long, chunky books, but the chapters are really short. So, does this one, actually, does this one have that? Yeah, it does. For a second, I felt like, oh, did it not have plastic? But I think every library book has that plastic covering on it. Okay, so let's show you the rest of my Stephen King collection. So let me just go ahead and start with, I almost have the whole Dark Tower series. I just need one more book from the series. Sorry, Pennywise. Don't scare me, just if I knock you down. So, Gunslinger. The Drawing of Three. The Wasteland. And these were some of the first Stephen King books I ever bought. That's why they're the mass market paperbacks with the black, his name in black. But I can't remember what that's called. But anyway, I read this. I started with this series, but then. And I got to the halfway point of book 4, but the thing about his books is sometimes I need to step back and read something else. And so I decided to start from the beginning, but I haven't restarted reading them yet. So I've read the first 3 and halfway through book 4, but there was so much space in between my readings of the books that I don't remember a lot about what happened. So, speaking of the Dark Tower series, I agree that I think from the start they should have just stuck with the TV series. I mean, I never saw the movies. I don't know how bad the movie was, but I know that they said the movie was really bad. Like Melissa was one of the people who agreed that it was a bad movie. So I need to, which I felt bad because someone worked really hard on that, and then, like, the actors, and the director, and the writer, and all those people, but come on. I mean, Stephen King writes a lot. His books, even his standalones, are full of so much that you can't just, like, either it needs to be a mini-series or a TV series. Movies don't work. I mean, Misery worked as a movie because it's one of his shorter novels. So, and his short stories work in the novel format. In movie format, because they're short, and you don't have to do a lot. So, and then I have book 5 in this trade paperback floppy edition, and I think there's actually pictures in this one, like cartoon type pictures. Let me see if I can find it. You can always see you can tell where they are with the, because there's certain like see, this one actually has illustrations in it, so which is really cool. This is the Wolves of Calla. This is the 5th one, and surprisingly, I'm surprised that book 6 isn't a lot. Song of Susanna, isn't. This one also kind of has illustrations, but they're like black and white. But it's so much smaller than book 5, or it looks smaller. It looks like the size of Pet Cemetery, which I have here too. Which I was I was surprised. And I was looking, I was like, is this an art copy or something? But nope, it doesn't say anything about that. But I know I kind of read the back description, I haven't gotten to this book, but I mean, like I said, I read the first 3 books. I'm somewhat familiar with the characters and the situation, of course. And that character, one of the female member of the group has gotten possessed. It sounds like by a demon, a female demon. So, but I need to start reading it soon. I mean, you know what? I don't know why, but what I really should do is every time I talk about the book that I'm thinking about, is like, oh, I should read this now. When I talk about it in a video, then maybe right after the video, I should actually do that. But then, unfortunately, if I do that, then I'll neglect books that I bought that I should be reading. If that makes any sense. And I just need the last book, book 7, which is The Dark Tower, the last book. And the good news is it will probably take a while before they get the TV series up and going, so I think I have a while, but I should probably start rereading the series soon. Because, I mean, it might surprise me, sneak up on me, like, The Witcher is now going to be a TV series and a streaming, which, although that one is a little easier because it's on a streaming network, so you can watch anytime you want once it's put on the streaming network. But that's another one I was hoping to read, but like I said, it's taken me a long time to read some of the other library books that I've borrowed. Okay, so next, let's go ahead and start with the short stories. So this is one of the early short story collections, I think it's the first actually no, not the first one, but the second short story collection I bought, Full Dark, No Stars. Let's see what's in this one. I know there's one, a well-known one. Okay, so I think 1922, which just was something on that was something on a streaming network that just came out. I think that's the one where the guy murders his wife and him and his son have to keep that a secret. They bury her in their yard, I think. Big Driver, Fair Extension. Ooh, so it's a deal with the devil kind of situation. And that one in Fair Extension. And Big Driver is a cozy mystery. Oh, and that one, I think a lot of his short stories don't all take place, are the only ones that don't take place in Maine. Oh, well, no, I guess Pet Summer does take place in Maine. The family came from Chicago. And, of course, the Dark Tower series. Oh, so Yep, it was a 1922 was a Netflix film, and Big Driver was a Lifetime TV movie. In a Good Marriage is the only one that's an actual feature film starring Joan Allen and Anthony Paglia. Joan Allen is that I think she played the mother in I can't remember. I mean The Notebook, the Nicholas Sparks. So this one, you know what, I really should read some of the short stories. Because I won't, some of them, I mean, like, this one has, Fair Extension is the shortest. So maybe I should read that one. It's just, I'm surprised that the short stories are longer than I thought when I read, like, Full Dark, No Stars. I mean, 4 Past Midnight. Okay, and then this is the very first one I bought. First short story of Stephen King, 4 Past Midnight. This has Secret Window, Secret Garden, which is the movie Secret Window is based off of, or based on, or based off of, like, I'm looking first, obviously. The one starring Johnny Depp, and he's being stalked by a guy who claims he stole his story. And then he's also going through a divorce because his wife cheated on him. And I did start reading this one. The Long Layers, that's the only one I read from this collection. That is... You know what I should do? I should start reading some of these in September, some of these short stories. That way by October I'll have read quite a bit. But, anyway, what was I saying? Okay, so I read The Long Layers is the only one. That's basically, if I remember correctly, that's what I read in that week. My friend and my sister and me and myself, we started kind of like we tried to attempt a book club. And we only got through, like, 2 books, I think, before it totally failed, and I, like, forgot about it. And I don't know if you could say it's partly my fault, and partly, I didn't, like, push it. I didn't say anymore, but anyway. That is the one where these people on the flight, and the flight crashes, and they end up in another dimension or something, or either that, or they end up... Yeah, I think they end up in another dimension, and... these creatures, these alien-like creatures that this one of the passengers calls the Longlers, and he was like dreaming about these creatures, and all I can think of, and maybe because in the miniseries that's what they look like, but whenever I pictured them, I always thought of the like fuzzy Pac-Man. That's for some reason that's what I always pictured them look like, and maybe that's because that's what they look like in the TV movie. But I don't know, it's been a long time since I've seen the TV movie. But it starred, I remember the girl who played Mary Lennox in the movie, the Warner Brothers movie version of The Secret Garden. I think she was in it. She played the blind girl, the blind teenage girl. So I read that one, and then I try to read Secret Garden, Secret Window, but I think the problem is because I've seen the movie, so I know what's going to happen, so I'm thinking, oh, I don't need to read, and it would be even worse in here because it's not that long, so there's probably not as many details that weren't in the movie, because they don't have a lot, so it's not like you have to push. I mean, they probably had to squeeze it out a little bit, but not a lot because it's a short story. So this is the first one I ever got. So I'm thinking about reading The Library Policeman. I put a bookmark for that one. I put a bookmark. So I did obviously read chapter 1. So I need to read chapter 2. It would be so easy, like I'm saying it now, it's so easy to say it, but then to actually sit down and do it. Like, not that, I mean, like I said, he's my favorite author, but, you know, his books take some time and patience, and sometimes I'm not in the mood for a story set in the real world that has some unreal elements. Sometimes I'm more to escape completely into a whole other world. And there's a lot. He writes a lot. Okay, so the other two short story collections I have of his now are Nightmares and Dreamscapes and Hearts of Land, which I had no idea was a short story collection. I thought it was a full-length novel. But this one also was made into a movie starring Anthony Hopkins and Anton Yelchin when he was a kid. And may he rest in peace, which it's really sad what happened to him. But that one, this focuses a lot on Vietnam. So it's set in the 60s, I think. And one of the stories is Anton, like, there's this little boy, it's him and his mom, and this man, they run a boarding house, and this old man comes to stay with them, and he has, like, some special gift of something, like, he can see things or something, I don't remember exactly, but the boy kind of like starts spending time with the guy bonding with him, and he's telling him about these secret spy type men who are following him, and they're dangerous and who to watch out for. They might come after him. And that's the one that made it into, but I didn't realize there were let me see if there's a list. There's gotta be a table of contents of what short stories there are in here. Oh, maybe it is a novel, but it's like spread throughout decades. Oh, I thought maybe it is a novel. It's just. Oh, maybe it is a novel. For a second, when I read the description, I got the impression, oh, maybe it's your story collection, but no, I think it's a novel. It just is a story that goes beyond just the one decade. Okay, so never mind. I guess it is short. It is a novel. Sorry about that. So the only other short story collection that I have that's actual short story collection is Nightmares and Dreamscapes. And this one actually, I think, was made into a TNT TV movie or like mini series or something, or series. Okay, so there's no titles that I recognize. But I think this was one that was, like I said, I think it was made into like a TV movie or something, like a miniseries. So Dolan's Cadillac, which I'm guessing is about a car. He's probably like at least two other stories about cars. Like Christine and there's another one that's about a car. The End of the Whole Mess, Suffer the Little Children, The Night Flyer, Popsy, It Grows on You. I wonder if that's like a plant, like an evil plant thing or something. Chattery Teeth, Dedication, The Moving Finger, Sneakers, You Know They Got a Hell of a Band. Home Delivery, Rainy Season, My Pretty Pony, Sorry, Right Number, The 10 O'Clock People, Crouch End, The House on Maple Street, haunted house story probably, The Fifth Quarter, The Doctor's Case, Omni's Last Case, Head Down, Brooklyn, August, and the notes section. So I'm guessing that's not a story. That's just the notes on the collection. So anyway, sorry about the whole Hearts of Landis mishap. I thought when reading the back, I thought, oh, maybe it's your story collection, but nope. So this was my first Stephen King I ever bought and read. And believe it or not, I'm reading it for the second time, but look how big this is. This is over 1,000 pages. And sometimes I'm just not in the mood. So I'm sure most people know what this is about. It's the whole haunted the clown, haunting the town, the evil entity that makes up everyone's fears in this small town of Derry. Comes after them and kills kids especially. And he goes after the group of he targets the group of these seven outcasts, and they come together because one of their fearless leader, lost his little brother to this monster. And they're the only ones who actually come very close to defeating him. But Pennywise comes back, right on schedule, 27 years later, and wants revenge. And Chapter 2 is coming out next month. Which, that one and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, I want to see both of those, but I don't like going by myself to the theater. And that's for any movie. It's not like I will fully admit that both Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark in this one scares me. I will admit that. I'm not trying to be trying to pretend to be brave, because I will admit this scares the shit out of me, but I still love it. That's the point of scary movies. They're supposed to scare you. But anyway, apparently there are some people who get so desensitized by scary movies that it doesn't really affect them for some reason. But they still like watching them. But anyway, I don't want to go by myself because, I just don't like going to movies by myself. It's no fun, But I know my mom won't go. And my dad, he doesn't want to go because he doesn't want to waste the money. I get it, but on the other hand, what? So you're never going to go to the movies again because of that? It's just it's frustrating because I don't have anyone to go with. And I don't even know if my friend from work, Kaylin, who, although she doesn't work at the same place anymore with me, but I don't even know if she would be interested in scary movies. I don't know if she's that kind of person, and I don't know if she has time to go to the movies by herself. So, I'm, I think I was at the halfway point. I'm at least with them as adults. They've just arrived in Derry, and once again, it's continuing the flashbacks and reliving these experiences in Derry. I have this, I don't know why, but I think I'm one of the few people who likes Bible-thin pages. I think Murphy Napier, is the one person that I know who said she liked Bible-thin pages. I think it was her. But I really like them too. I don't know why. I just like the idea of, the feeling, the sound, and, slipping through. You get this warm, fuzzy feeling of you're sitting in your library with an old light on one of those lights that you hold it for example in A Christmas Carol, kind of like a light like that, and there's a crackling warm fire and you're sitting on a fancy armchair. It's a little prettier than this. That's what I always think of when I'm reading a book with the Bible thin pages. This is one of my all-time favorite Stephen King book. I love it. I don't know why, considering that I am freaked out by clowns. And this is probably partly to blame for that. But although before I ever discovered it by Stephen King, before I really got into it, I think I was already kind of creeped out by clowns. Which is ironic because on my 6th birthday we had a female clown called Popcorn. I remember her name, Popcorn. And I don't know how I felt about it. I don't know how I reacted. I think I liked her at the time, but I don't know, maybe female clowns are a little easier to deal with than male clowns. So that was one of my earliest. And then The Stand, which by the way, I don't like paper bookmarks anymore. They just bend way too easily. But this is the other big chunker Stephen King book, The Stand, which is an apocalypse type story where some virus wipes out half the population, and these group of survivors are really slowly coming together, and they all have been summoned by the Dark Man, who is connected to, or he might be the same guy as the villain in the Dark Tower series. they he's coming to them, and so is this healer woman. Oh, it's a flu. That's right. It's a flu that wipes out. Mother Abigail, who can heal people. She's the oldest woman living now, and she's trying to call them to get them away from the Dark Man. And it's like a good versus evil mixed with the whole apocalyptic virus wiping out everybody. And I really need to get back to reading this. Especially because I'm right in the middle, and I always feel weird about stopping. Like, I don't like stopping when there's not a page break. And like I said, I like doing it. It's just sometimes I'm not in the mood for as much. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood to go into one of Stephen King's worlds. So another one is big chunkers I need to read. And then this is one I bought from my sister's library sale in her library. The Talisman, which is also running with Peter Straub. And I know there's a sequel to The Talisman, but I feel like I should probably read this first. And I've seen the sequel at the bookstore, I just never got around to buying it, because who knows when I'll get to this. But this one is one of his fantasy books. Supernatural. So, and there's a world with monsters beyond anything you've ever imagined before. A journey into the dark heart of horror. So I'm guessing it's like a horrified version of our world, like with monsters and stuff like that. I don't know. And then let's see what else do I have here. Salem's Lot is another early Stephen King book that I bought. This is his vampire novel, and basically it's like, imagine Dracula in modern day suburbia America. That's basically what this is. So we have our main character, Ben Mears, is a writer, and he decides to go back to his hometown because he wants to write about this haunted house in his town that has been haunting him his whole life. He had this bad experience in this house, and he decides he needs to, there's a word for that, like heal. But then he finds out the house has been bought by these two old men. One of them, it turns out, might be a vampire. Barlow, I think his name was. And there were two movie versions of this. I think there was a 70s, I want to say it was in the 70s when the movie came out, a TV movie. And I never saw that once, and I don't even know who's in it. And then there was a 1999 movie that starred Rob Lowe. Rutger Hauer's one of my favorite actors that I don't see enough of. Or he won't necessarily do all the types of movies I would like, as Barlow. And then, what is his name? I can picture his name. He's the guy who played the president in the Hunger Games. I can picture him, but I can't think of his name. But he was in there, and so there were, and then there was another actor I recognize, a kid actor that I've seen a couple times. He does a lot of TV movie work. And he was actually just in an episode of Ghost Whisperer I just watched. I can't remember the actor's name. Oh, and the woman who played Samantha Mathis is also in the movie. Like I said, that's the only version I've ever seen. I've never seen the original movie, so I don't know which one's better, if people prefer the original movie, or if they've even seen. But this is his take on vampires, and of course he's one of those people who probably can't stand Twilight. I'm always kind of caught in the middle of those kind of situations, because I like Twilight. I was one of those people who enjoyed Twilight, you know. I always hold it a soft place for Twilight in my heart, you know. But I also like I have no problem with this kind of vampire stuff, but the problem with that is that I also get annoyed when people are like, get so like, how dare she make the vampires sparkle? Oh my god, they're gay. You know, it just annoys me. But on the other hand, I get it on some. Oh, well, that's my cousin, so I can't really get mad at her, because she doesn't know any better. Although Terry technically doesn't either. But anyway, I mean, really, I can't get mad at anyone, because it's not like I tell people when I'm filming. This was kind of a spur of the moment video I decided to film. Okay, so there's that one, Salem's Lot. I definitely recommend it. Don't worry. Like I said, it's not like Twilight at all. It's a vampire story that's actually, the creepy kind. There's Vagabond, which just also became a movie starring Pierce Brosnan. I think it was a TV movie as well, and I don't know who else was in it. This is, again, another story about a writer. His wife died a few years ago, and he's still grieving, and he finally decides to work his courage to go to the place where their summer home, and to visit, and he is being haunted by the ghost, his wife's ghost, I believe. And while he's there, he meets a mother and a daughter who are being and I think her ex-husband is abusive, but his father owns the whole town or something like that. I don't remember it that well, but I need to but yeah, that's what I remember. I'm not 100% sure if I'm getting that right. Like, I'm going by the TV show, the TV movie as well. And now we're on to the only one I've ever finished, and I finished recently, and that is Misery by Stephen King. This was also, again, was made into a movie starring James Caan as the main character, Paul Sheldon, and Kathy Bates as his number one fan. Annie Wilkes, that's right. So, Paul has written this famous, really successful commercial bestseller series called Misery Chastain, and it's historical fiction. Everybody loves it, but he decides he is done and he wants to move on and write something with more literary merit, so he decides in the last book to kill off her character. And Annie Wilkes is not happy about this. And by chance, Paul crashes his car and she finds him and takes him back to her place to heal him, to nurse him back to health. And she is the worst nurse ever. She gives him pills novel pills that she doesn't really take care of him all that well. And she's slowly wasting that she's a little crazy and needs some mental help. And she keeps Paul locked up and is like, I will let you go when you write the last book, bring Misery's character back and write another novel for me about this character. And it's just brutal, and it's kind of gross at times, and it's so disturbing, but it's so good at the same time for people who are fans of Stephen King. And it's one of his shorter novels, so it doesn't take as long to read, and it's just so. But the irony of the thing is, how it reads, even though it doesn't take as long to read, it reads very slowly. Because basically, you're spending time with Paul while he's imprisoned, and imprisoned by this woman, and not a lot is going on. I mean, the only thing he does is she gives him food, gives him his meds, and he writes. And the only time, there's only a few sporadic moments that are very thrilling and nerve-wracking and just, anticipatory and, but there are so few of those moments. But that one is really good. And then The Shining. I love that one. This is another one, as you can see, I started a while back, and of course, most people probably also know this one as well, because it was like there is a Stanley Kubrick movie that Stephen King himself did not like at all. I mean, in fact, he did not like the casting of Jack Nicholson as his main character, Jack Torrance, because he thought Jack Nicholson looked too scary, and he looked like he could be a crazy person. He wanted his main character, Jack, to seem Jack Torrance supposed to seem like a normal guy on the surface. He is supposed to look like, a typical husband and father, nothing special. But this one is basically, in case you don't know, it's this guy, Jack Torrance. It's him, his wife, and a little 5-year-old son. And they become caretakers to this hotel during the winter time when it's in the off season and no one is there, and they are essentially isolated at this hotel. And Jack is someone who he's trying to write. First off, he's trying to write his own a novel, but he's struggling with that, as well as alcoholism, and he slowly goes crazy because the hotel actually ends up being haunted, and all these ghosts are trying to. And there's also the plot that his son Danny, his 5-year-old son, has what is called the Shining, which is he can see ghosts and stuff like that. And again, so far, like always, this is another good story. Once again, it's very good. It's slow moving. And it really delves into the characters. That's one of the things he's really good at, is delving into the characters and really exploring them and giving you backstory and helping you understand these characters, whether they're the bad guy or the good guy. And there's really, truthfully, there's really no good or bad guy. It's just, there's just shades of gray with all these characters. I mean, some of his stories, there's clearly an evil villain, someone that's, in a line that's totally crazy and evil, a lot of time. But most of the time he deals with shades of gray. And there is a sequel called Dr. Sleep about Danny as an adult. And I have that one. Oh, by the way, I have not gotten into his son's work, but I do have, but I did attempt to read Heart-Shaped Box, but that was not the best time to get that book, because, it was starting to frustrate me and make me anxious that I have to make sure I return these books, and I want to get them done before the 2 weeks are up, or at least get one book done, so I was getting really anxious. So it was just not the best time to read a book like that, because I was starting to lose interest. Another early Stephen King book I have is The Eyes of the Dragon. This was one that my dad bought many years ago from the Anne Arundel Public Library. So it was a library bind in Annapolis and Anne Arundel County Library. In which at first I thought, oh my god, you stole it from the library. But no, it was actually, it was probably a library sale. So this is one of his fantasy books. And I did start it. Oh, this is the one with Tyrion. I have the Tyrion magnetic bookmark. So this is another one I need to read. And what I'm thinking about doing is in December this year, which I think I tried to do it last year. So I think I might try to do it again this year, where I just read books about dragons. That I read books about dragons this December. But, I don't know, really, even though I started reading it, I'm not understanding. I don't know, it's been so long, so I couldn't really give you a description of what it's about. But, there's that one. And then now on to the newer, let me do first Needful Things, and then when I started, this was back, I think this was the April book in the book club group, in the Goodreads group. And this one is about this this shop comes to this town, this little shop called Needful Things, where they basically always they have things that for some reason you feel like you need it. Like they're collectible things, like things that would only be important to you. And the guy who owns Leland Gaunt, the owner of the shop, he tells these people, I will give you this thing that you need, but you have to give me something in return. And at first, it's harmless little pranks, like ruining someone's flower bed or something like that, or, But then, slowly, over time, it will become dangerous and violent, and a bit scary, and, But that's no surprise. But it's Stephen King. Of course it's going to get to that point. But he does a really good job at looking at small towns or looking at the underbelly of a small town, the darker side of the people of a small town. That's what his books do. That's what most of them are, I feel like they're about. This is another one that I started, and the plot is a little simpler, so it was easy for me to give you guys the description, but I obviously started this one a while back. This was one I was just really excited to read at the time, and I kept thinking of Mr. Gold from Once Upon a Time. That's who I pictured as Leland Gaunt, the actor Robert Carlyle as the character. That's who I was seeing, because Mr. Gold kind of reminds me of him a little bit. Less evil, though. Mr. Gold, of course, is less evil than him, but although some people would probably disagree, I'm sure. But that's a whole other story. So, I do want to get back into this, but what I decided to do is try to read some of the shorter stories of his. Okay, so those are some of the older ones. Last but not least, some of the ones oh wait, I'll show you this one first. Okay, so Dreamcatcher, this is about a group of boys, and this takes place in Derry, where it takes place in Insomnia, apparently. I did not know that. These group of boys, when they were little boys, when they were probably 13, something happened to them in the woods. And it's 25 years later, and they're adults, grown men living their own lives, and it's like history is repeating itself. And when they reunite to get together after 25 years, this guy shows up at their camp, and he's talking about something that had happened that was similar to what happened to them all those years ago when they were little boys. And not little boys, but and it turns out there's a creature from another world or something like that. You can tell when I didn't practice these. You can totally tell when I don't practice. So this Dreamcatcher. I wasn't sure if I would like this one, but reading the description makes me wonder, maybe I would like it. I mean, I bought it, so. And it kind of makes me think of my dad a little bit. Or some friends of ours that were into hunting and stuff with this. So anyway, and then last one is two newest books. Okay, The Outsider, and I know I've heard that a lot of people complain about the ending and stuff like that, but I mean, let's face it, Stephen King is just not great at endings. But this is, it's interesting. This is called The Outsider, where I think a stranger comes to this town, he's just, people are suspicious of him or something, and that's what I'm guessing. And Elevation was the other one. I don't have that one, although I have heard some bad things about that one. So, I just think that this cover has a very interesting feel to it. But, this is one of his newest books. It's at least a year old, I think. And then last but not least, the last book. I try not to buy the hardback. I try to keep an eye out for the paperback editions, but I mean, they're only $4 at the bookstore, so as you can see, I've given in quite a bit on that, because I have quite a bit of his books that are hardback editions. So, finally, I ended up getting Sleeping Beauties, the novel he wrote with his son, Owen. This is the one where, like, all the women all of a sudden are put into a deep sleep and wrapped up in a cocoon type thing, and then if you wake them up too soon, then they'll go a little crazy. I'm so excited to read all these over time eventually, but there are so many of them, and his books are so long. Like, what I need to do next year is lower my Goodreads goal to like 10 or 1 to 10 books. So there will be less pressure on me, although I like to believe that it doesn't pressure me, my Goodreads goal. I feel like on some level it probably does, at least a little bit. I mean, I'm trying with 100 books. It's just the problem with being part of BookTube community and Goodreads, not to say it's any booktuber's fault, it's my own fault, that I feel like you're aware that everybody's reading so many books and so fast that you just can't help but feel like, okay, I gotta catch up with everybody else. You try really hard not to be that way, but you can't. It's very hard not to. So the only thing you can do is just continue to try hard and remind yourself that no, it's not a competition. Just have fun and don't put so much pressure on yourself. I mean, like I said, as I've always said, I like the idea of seeing the accomplishments I made. I feel proud if I can read 100 books. It just makes me feel good that, oh, I did that. But, I mean, it shouldn't be about that. It should be about the quality, not the quantity. So that is an updated version of my Stephen King's collection. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and like and subscribe. Well, that's what thumbs up is. Everybody says like and subscribe, so it's like it just kind of slipped out. So please subscribe to my channel if you're interested if you have liked my videos. And as always, I hope you are enjoying your reading. And Pennywise says bye. I will talk to y'all later. Bye.